I'm the Head of Supplies and Procurement for Leeds Teaching and the GS1 lead. Graham is the e-enablement business manager and also the Workstream lead. Quite a bit of the work on the Scan for Safety project. Just so everybody's aware, this is probably actually the most nerve-wracking presentation of the last 2 to 3 days. That's because I've got 5, 6 colleagues from Leeds sat in the front rows, and they've avoided me for 5 days now, so they will actually be able to tell you whether I'm actually fibbing or telling the truth in terms of where we are on the project. I think the first thing to sort of say, I'm actually quite proud to sort of suggest that the Scan for Safety logo or the strapline was actually developed by myself and the team in Leeds. So one Friday afternoon we were sat there coming up with a project name which we put into the centre. My first big mistake was because I didn't patent it and sell it on to the DH. We gave it to them and they now believe it's theirs. So that's that was my first issue, I guess. So what I want to do today is really give you a bit of an overview of Leeds teaching hospitals from a corporate point of view, the drivers around the project, looking at some of the work we've already done and the starting point and some of the real key enablers to us being awarded the status of demonstrator site. And then I'm going to hand over to Graham, who's got the programme update in terms of where we are on GLN's GTINs, patient ID, etc., etc. So, Leeds Teaching Hospitals, a little hospital which is on the sunny side of the Pennines, as opposed to the other side. But I think we're about the 3rd largest trust these days. I know it fluctuates depending on acquisitions, mergers, etc., but I think we're number 3. Across 7 sites, which gives itself its own issues and complexities. We'll probably turn 16, 17, about 1.2 billion. And we treat around 1.5 million patients a year. So quite a large organisation. We've got 35 of the 42 specialties to NHS England, and we were awarded a contract about 3 or 4 weeks ago. You may have seen the press announcement that we bid and were very successful in being awarded the live hand transplant contract to NHS England. So we're now the centre for hand transplants within the UK. However, it's got its issues. I think, as with most of the NHS organisations I've heard present over the last couple of days, demand in some instances outstripping capability. We've got 64 operating theatres. We're just about to commission another 2 back into an area we pulled out of a couple of years ago, and we're going to repatriate some independent sector work back into Leeds by releasing clinical time, some more clinical time. We can bring it back. As I mentioned, it's got pressures. I think we've pretty much turned the corner on quality performance. We were one of the very few organisations in the previous year to hit the emergency care standard. This year we're just slightly below 94%-ish, but still not bad for a city centre, large acute teaching hospital to hit those sort of numbers. But it comes at a price. 3 years ago, when we looked at the organisation, we had an independent review. We were looking at a hole in the finances about £200 million. And it was borderline. It was real borderline as to whether we went into formal measures or, as happened, fortunately, the board were replaced, new chief exec brought in, new board brought in, and a new direction of travel was given to the organisation. From our point of view, that meant another journey, I suppose. We had to re-engage with a new set of individuals, a new board, and really bring them up to speed and win their confidence as to what we were doing in supplies and procurement. Again, we heard today one of the issues within the NHS is that frequency of change of management. But I think, you know, we're 2.5 years, 3 years down the line now, we've got that confidence. So this year, or the year just gone, we're going to close the books at £40 million deficit, which is not good in anybody's light, but from where we were, and on a turnover of that, it's to as was planned. And next year we're actually looking at a very, very small surplus or this year now, 16-17. So I think we've turned the corner. We've turned the corner. From a procurement point of view, there's a couple of things that we really have to concentrate on and have been concentrating on to sort out the non-pay side of the business. The first thing is to really sort of talk about the AP spend and PO, non-PO debate. We've very much gone for AP. You hear a lot of organisations talk about PO spend, measuring PO, what's on PO, what's on. What we've looked at is what's going through AP. Make sure you understand where the money is going. So our non-pay spend in the accounts will be about 400. Actually, what we're looking in cash out the business, about 550. So we are, as a team, are interested in that 550. Where's it going? Who's spending it? And what could we do better that maybe traditionally suppliers and procurement have not looked at? And we've been quite surprised in what we found in some of that other £150 million that we thought was very well controlled. Actually, it was not controlled very, very well, and individuals thought they were doing a good job for the organisation, but we've been able to help them along the way. The second area that we've been asked to get involved in, and it goes back to our issue around cash flow, is whether we can relinquish the inventory back into cash and turn that back into liquidity that we can spend on other things that are necessary to the organisation. And I'm pleased to say if we take again, last year's results, which we were able to produce in a couple of days as opposed to a couple of weeks now in terms of inventory number, we're going to close at about 15.8 on this year gone. So we're already seeing the results of our efforts and works, as it were. So what was our journey? Where were we before we sort of embarked upon the Scan for Safety project? I joined about 12 years ago, and shock horror, the first thing you realise is that the little tuck shop selling the Mars bar and or the banana with a barcode on it is probably more sophisticated than the operating theatre upstairs in terms of track, trace, location, replenishment. So we embarked upon looking at what the customer needed, understand the organisation, segment the customers into how they buy products, what they use and how they use them. So the first thing that we looked as an organisation was to put a base layer of materials management across the organisation. So we've got in the region of just shy of 400 locations now that are fully manned by the procurement function. We've taken the responsibility and the effort time away from clinical staff, releasing their time to concentrate on what they're good at and what they're paid for. So that takes away the low-level day-to-day issues around that. We then start to move up the value chain and start to look at where we can put inventory around higher value items, implantable devices, etc. We've now got a situation, I think, of the 64 theatres. About 35, 38 of them now have some sort of inventory solution in there. Now, the first thing I will sort of say is that, you know, in all of this, the technology, the actual inventory technology, and we've seen plenty of that over the last few days, it's fairly agnostic. It doesn't really matter. They pretty much all do the same sort of thing. What is absolutely key is the data that sits behind it. And what I mean by that, and the issues that we've been finding, particularly around barcoding, was the inconsistency of standards. So you put a system in there, and if I take orthopaedics as a good example, when we did a recent stock check in orthopaedics, there were 5 different barcodes on the same set of products. The same MPC had 5 different barcodes. Now, how can you expect somebody in theatre to understand when we're asking them to scan these things, that when it doesn't scan, they need to go and find a legitimate barcode? It just doesn't happen. Product gets used, move on. It doesn't get replenished, and then it's the system that's let them down, etc., etc. So we've had our issues around the data standards. We use whatever's on there at the moment, but it absolutely it takes a lot of effort from our point of view, keeping on top of those barcodes, keeping the system updated with any new barcodes that comes along. And it is the they say that the technology will do everything it should do for the day. It's the data that will let you down. I think the other I think issue that when I compare ourselves with Derby, we've done a lot around inventory and stock, but we've done it around inventory. What we've not done, as Derby have demonstrated, as I would call it, the circle, we're halfway there. So it's a replenishment system. We're capturing patient data, but again, it's not GS1 standard patient data. So in one system, we'll be getting the attendance number. In another area of theatre, we'll be doing the NHS number. Then we might do the theatre system number in terms of the patient. So at the moment, we have no standard mechanism of catching the patient, and similarly with the procedure. So that's where we haven't quite closed the circle yet, and that's what obviously GS1 will help us do when we get those standards implemented around those other parts of the solution. So Leeds, GS1, why, what, where? I think the first thing to say, and the most fundamental requirement of the project, is to say, whilst I'm the GS1 lead and I'm finance, procurement, etc., this is not a procurement finance project. This is about transformation. This is about whole organisational turnaround, and therefore it is about engagement with the top, making sure that the top, the board, the non-execs get it. I think today, pleasing to everybody's talking about transformation, what this can do for efficiency for the NHS. So we've had to absolutely instill that within the organisation from the top down. And let's make no mistake, this is a massive undertaking for us as Leeds, being one of the largest demonstrator sites. There isn't any question of being able to do just one hospital or two sites within the organisation. We have to do all 7 sites to get to the end point, which is in December 2017. So it's a massive, massive undertaking. And just to give you a flavour for that, we believe at the moment, in terms of the analysis we've done, we've got about 8,000 staff at some point in time, bring up to speed, train, and we'll be using a solution to capture the sort of information that we're talking about. 8,000 people around the organisation. That's a massive, massive change programme within anybody's organisation. So we need to absolutely go forward from here and engage with the wider team, and comms is clearly an issue that we need to make sure we're strong on. I think yesterday communication came through strong and loud. What the project isn't, or what the funding isn't about, and just to absolutely stress this point, I guess we're going to talk a little about some of the technologies that we've got in Leeds. So being a demonstrator site, yes, it brings some funding. It doesn't bring the funding on day one. As I said earlier, it brings it over a phase, 4 or 5 phases. But what it absolutely is not is to procure new inventory systems. It isn't about going out there and paying for systems. The trust needs to invest in those systems. What it is about is investing in people, resource. About 75% of the business plan is resource driven, and that's actually our resource. So this isn't investing in outside organisations coming in and doing it to us and walking away and then going and charging somebody else for that knowledge they've gained in Leeds. This is about enabling the internal team, releasing them from their day jobs, backfilling where necessary and financing that. That's about 75% of the monies. The other 25% is system integration, and there are a couple of major systems within the NHS that need to be GS1 enabled. Pharmacy is a really good example we saw today. I think of the 6 demonstrator sites, 4 are JC, 2 are Ascribe, I think is the split at the moment. So if we capture those, there's some work to be done there. And then the other thing is the scanners. We need about 2,500 scanners in Leeds, printers around the organisation. So quite a bit of money to be invested in that. So that's sort of where we've been, where we sort of start the journey. I'm now going to hand over to Graham. He'll just take us through some of the key enablers within the business case, and really where we are at the moment, and then what we've got left to do over the next 18 months, I guess. Cheers, Graham.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, so this slide is a little busy. You will have a copy of the slides provided by GS1, so there's no need to take photographs or anything like that. They will be made available. What this is doing is showing you for the key enablers of the project, and there's 6 of them, where we are, the transformation, and where we want to go to. Okay, so to be as is. Each one of those enablers, and there are 3 core ones, and they're based around the place, which is the location. They're based around the product, that's catalogue management, and they're based around the patient information. Okay, those are the 3 key ones. Beyond that, as Chris has talked about, we've got inventory management, we've got purchase to pay, and we've got the product recall. Now, they're all interlocked, they're all interchangeable, and you can't just view them in terms of silos. And within Leeds, all those work stream leads are working together to try and be able to deliver the project. So a lot of this is around collaboration, not only within Leeds, but also with our fellow demonstrator sites and other NHS trusts, distributors, stakeholders who want to be involved in the project. And I'll discuss some of the collaborative working just as we're going through these slides. Okay, so the first one, the place. Now this one is a little bit of a Cinderella. Who's really concerned with global location numbers? I was just talking to 2 guys from Norway who were very, very interested in global location numbers. And just to give you a feel for how important they are, back in the year 2000, Leeds were working with Johnson & Johnson and Baxter. As part of a P2P process, we were going to transfer all our orders daily via an FTP site. And they were going to send all their invoices back, so we'd be able to do the match. We went through, we looked at all our catalogues, all our prices, all our contracts. They were all aligned. The one thing that stopped us, and this was pre-GHX days, the one thing that stopped us was global location numbers, GLN's location identifiers. We found that there were thousands of locations within the J&J system for around about 200 locations within Leeds. Because people are picking the phone up over the years, they're saying it's Ward 3 from Jimmy's, Ward 3 from St James's, WD3, a name got in there, so there are lots of misinterpretation of the actual locations. So although it may well seem as though it's only a minor part of the project, it does provide the place. So we've got to think about that place. Since 2009, we've been trading with suppliers using global location numbers. But when I ask suppliers, are you aware of that? They'll say no. You know, they don't even see them within the actual address description, but they have been there since 2009. Okay, we also want global location numbers from the suppliers. At the moment, our unique identifier is a Dun & Bradstreet code, a DUNS number, and we identify each supplier uniquely through that. What we want to be able to do is switch that to the GLN, and then we've got a national registry, not only of suppliers, but also of our location points within Leeds that we can share. Okay, in terms of requisitioning points, we've got around about 1,600 requisitioning delivery points, ship-to points within Leeds. But that is dwarfed when you come to look at the number of rooms that are around in those 7 sites that Chris was talking about. So we're talking about 25,000 areas, each of which has to be allocated a global location number. It's a huge undertaking, that just gives you some idea of the size of Leeds. But what we've done, we've allocated each one of those within a system called MyCAD. Now, MyCAD is also used by another one of the demonstrator sites, Plymouth, so they're using the system. So we've been working with them, working with GS1 in producing a governance document. So that is draft governance document around GLNs, which we will be able to share with everyone within the NHS. Now, those 25 locations we've mapped, so each drawing of an area within Leeds, that will have a GLN associated with it. Okay, all the architect's drawings, all those things are allocated a number. So we've mapped those. I've provided that information to MyCAD and they're mapping them. So it's just a small piece of work now for someone to go round to 25,000 locations and put a sticker on those locations. But we've done our bit, so that's as good as we can do for this. In terms of compliance, we're looking at a series of metrics so that we can be judged on the different location IDs, the GTINs, the patients. So each one of these will have a dashboard associated with it, and we'll be able to show the DH independently through a portal which suppliers we're sending GLNs to, which suppliers have provided us with GLNs, and we'll be able to work that percentage out and show the progress over the years. Now that should be close to 100% for the supplies base, but for pharmacy and other areas, they've still got to be brought on board in terms of those locations. In terms of catalogue management, what we're trying to do is have a single catalogue for Leeds. We use a system called GHX Nexus, which provides all the pricing and the cataloguing. So we're utilising that within this GS1 project. We're trying to utilise whatever we've got. As Chris was saying, we're not going out buying new systems. We're utilising what we've got. We're sharing experience from other organisations, and we're working with other stakeholders within the US and Europe to learn from their experiences around some of these systems and how they actually capture the lot and serial number. You're probably aware of the FDA requirements in the States, so a lot of the large multinationals are already providing this information, and the States are already one step down the line further than we are on the track and trace. So what we originally were looking at was a national PIM, a product information management system. That doesn't exist at the moment. So what we've been doing, I've been working with Salisbury, with Plymouth, with Portsmouth, and a number of other interested trusts in producing our own system so that we can get the GTINs, get the information from the suppliers. Once that information is in our existing databases, Nexus is also used by Plymouth, it's used by Portsmouth, and Salisbury. They're able to access that information as well. So we've all been out talking to the suppliers, give us your GTINs, give them now. We'll have them. We're not looking at the full attribute range that the DH are talking about at the moment. Just give us what you've got. We need them in order to make this work, because the first time a clinician goes to scan a product and it's not there, they lose confidence. If you do that 3 or 4 times, they just give up. So we've got to have that data in order to make this system work, just as we've got to make sure the patients have got the wristbands. So what we've been able to do over the last week, I've been working very closely with a number of suppliers, one of which is J&J, and they actually came today. And what we were able to do was link through to a global data synchronization network in the States. That's where all the products are fed, all that information from the suppliers. So we got one of our orthopedic products, and we got the GTIN and a number of attributes from that, imported it into the repository in the UK, put it into our Nexus catalog system, and then downloaded that, and it's an automatic flow, into our point of demand system. So by doing that, what we're able to do then was actually scan the product down at the Chapel Allerton Orthopaedic Centre, produce a stock replenishment, so the order went out to J&J, it was generated electronically, approved, sent to J&J, so they received it, sent back an automated message, the goods were dispatched into Leeds, matched, electronic invoice sent through, and then we're able to do the 3-way match. So you've got the perfect order going through. But that's all from having the clean data in the first place. Now, we're working, as I say, with a number of organisations to try and produce that type of information so that people can use it. And the technology that's involved there, this is a slide on the right-hand side from 2010, believe it or not, and that was at a GS1 event in Singapore. And MJ Wiley, who did the work in the States at that time on the GDSN, was here today, and she was here yesterday as well. She's now working for J&J, so she remembered that quite well. So the technology is there, we can utilise it, we just need to get a single system. We don't want a Leeds system, we want to be able to do it for the rest of the NHS. In terms of Cook, I've been working with them and they've provided this nice slide which shows all the touch points within Cook itself. So when we're talking about the NHS having all these issues of trying to get the touch points right within the hospital, they're also trying to do that within their organisation. They don't have to do them all at once, but you can just see the different areas that they've got to approach and how many staff they've got to train, how many systems they've got to change to actually produce the information that we require in terms of GTINs. So that's their implementation policy and what they're trying to do. GLN's established for all Cook entities globally, and you can see down at the bottom, GS1-based transaction processing and learning from US and Australian models. Okay. So you can see the type of information that they're trying to achieve. And this is just a barcode from Cook, one that you'll see many times over the last couple of days, describing a GTIN, the expiration date, and the lot number. So nice plain packaging there that people are able to zap, and you could give that to any end user to actually use. So 8,000 products available. Work underway as part of the DH policies. As well as suppliers, we're working with our distributors, and the distributors include Squadron, they include Bunzl, and of course they include supply chain. Supply chain, you know, they've got the same problems that we have. They need GTINs from suppliers. Bunzl need GTINs from suppliers, and so does Squadron and any other distributor. So they're working with us, and what we will do is any information that we get, we will share as part of an NHS data pool. So it will all be available, whether it's for a distributor or for a trust. Now you can see the complexity that Bunzl see within the system, because very often they break bulk. Okay, so they'll get product in from a supplier, so they've got 23,000 SKUs, it explodes to 64,000 with the selling units, times 97 data attributes that people are requiring, and you can see the number of data items. That's just from Bunzl. So you can see how much change needs to take place within the healthcare supply chain in order to make these things work. But we are working together, and there is a good chance that this will succeed in being able to produce the type of information that we've wanted for a long, long time at the point of demand. So in terms of GS1 compliance, the GTINs, again, it's the same dashboard. What we're trying to do, which suppliers are compliant, we'll be able to provide that information to the DH. Okay. In terms of patient identification, we've learned a lot over the last couple of days, so I'm not going to go into a great deal of depth around patient identification, other than to say that sourcing the wristbands has been a little bit interesting, Claire, over the last few weeks. But we're there, and I'm sure Vicky's more confident than we were a few months ago. So they must be compliant, and rolling them out to all those patients that Chris showed on the second slide, the size of Leeds, you can imagine how many wristbands have got to be put out there within the organisations, and Chris was already talking about the scanners and the printers to enable us to do that. In terms of inventory management, as Chris was saying, it doesn't really matter about the technology, it's around the data. So once we've got the data right, the technology will work. We're upgrading Powergate to version 5. We're working with Cardinal Health to learn some of the lessons from the implementation within the US. And we're also working with each individual area, because as Chris said, we segment our customer base. Okay. So in terms of the inventory areas, we've got them in most areas, as Chris said. We've also got the classic materials management top-up in all theatres. So when we say inventory, it's classic inventory, but we've got the top-up in every theatre anyway, and awards. And in other areas, we've got RFID. Now, these are just for high-value critical items. And I'll touch on those now, just to show you a brief video so you don't have to listen to me for much longer. And it also brings home, I think, some of the ideas around linking product, patient, and the information that you've seen on those barcodes. Okay. So the type of information that this system can produce, this is just an extract from the cardiac heart valve area within Leeds. You can see down at the bottom there's a chart there. It shows the number of procedures and the cost per procedure. And what you can do, you can zoom in by the physician. So if you want to look at a physician, you can zoom in by supplier, you can zoom in by product type and see the actual cost per case. There's lots of analytics reports in there, and you can get them on your smartphone. So I can show you them on my smartphone, linking directly into Leeds, tablet, PC. So you've got real-time information there. You've also got the ability to look at expired products because you've got the expiry date in there. You've also got the ability to look at items significantly above par according to the system calculations. So it's quite a sophisticated system that's involved, all revolving around those barcodes that are on the product being associated with a tag. In terms of the P2P, and we've got Phil here as the P2P lead, what we're trying to do there is look at all our processes, I think, and bring them up to date. So an organisational review of all the policies and procedures that we've got in place at the moment, working with each area to understand the variances, and making sure that we use GHX as the PEPPOL access point. Okay, so you can see the primary objective there. So what we're trying to do is to have full electronic invoicing and matching through the system. In terms of the network of systems that we use, and again, as Chris was saying, this is just a Leeds example. It's not the GS1 example, but this is what we're utilising within Leeds at the moment. And the flow of information is coming from the suppliers through our Nexus catalogues, into the point-of-demand systems, into our financial systems, and then back out towards the suppliers. And you can see the information flowing electronically around the system. All those linked into the global location numbers and the GTINs as well, to make life easier to actually match product with our suppliers for invoicing, as well as patient safety details. In terms of PEPPOL Compliance, again, the same type of dashboard. So we're looking at how many we will send through a PEPPOL access point, and that will also have to include pharmacy in there as well. In terms of product recall, and we've got Vicky who's our lead here, we've got the requirement to have almost real-time tracking. Now, with the system that I was showing you earlier, what you're able to do, this is an example from Johnson & Johnson of a product recall that's got the GTIN. If we've recorded the GTIN in Powergate or in the Wavemark system, we're able to track those products, look at them, and recall them, so we know where they are. What Vicky will tell you is that a lot of the Class 3 medical devices are not too much of a problem in tracking. It's the plastic bits of tat that Vicky has identified, because they cause as much time for nurses going around the areas trying to get those products back. So how we deal with those, I think, is one of the main challenges of this particular work stream. In terms of if you've got them in an electronic system in this respect. So you can see the barcodes, putting in the expiry date, the lot number and serial number, so we know the lot number. You can see this is an example from the FDA in America where they've actually recalled an item. It's fed into the system, and you can see you've got 46 expired items and 1 recalled item that's in inventory. So again, you're able to identify that and pull that straight from the system. Okay, lots of other reports around it, but in terms of product recall, that will make life much, much easier for the nursing clinical staff. So the benefits, I think as we've seen, it's all around patient safety, it's all around the patient, is this project. That's what we're trying to emphasise. It's not a supplies, procurement, materials management or finance, it's across the trust and it's transformational. So what we're trying to do, we're also trying to release time to care. And the way that I always look at this, if you look at the Nursing Times GS1 exercise that they did, the report, where they said that on average a nurse wastes 1 hour per shift looking for stuff. If you look at that, take an average of a band 5 grade nurse within Leeds, 1 hour per shift, that's 19 million. Now you have to shave an awful lot of product prices to get to 19 million in terms of efficiency savings. So also we're trying to enable the trust to be more efficient and to be able to measure and source goods at the optimum cost, which I think was part of the discussion this morning. But I'm more concerned in the middle part, which is making everything more efficient rather than just concentrating on price at the moment. Okay, Chris?
So just to sort of wrap up, I guess, I think the key points that come out of this, really from a project point of view, I think I've already mentioned, is that we're capturing as much of this as possible, such that any future NHS trusts that are wanting to embark upon this journey, we've done a lot of the footwork, we're documenting as much as possible, and we're sharing. And as I think I mentioned earlier, one of the commitments for being a demonstrator site is that we actually throw our doors open. So when we get a bit further down the line, organisations that want to come and visit, have a look at what we've done, how we've done it, been through that pain barrier, more than welcome to come into the organisation and have a look, and hopefully we can get people on the right track, as it were.